The relentless hum of Viridian, a city shimmering with glass towers and an undeniable aura of artistic prestige, barely penetrated the small, cramped attic apartment that served as both home and studio for Elara Thorne. At 30 years old, Elara existed on the fringes of this glittering world. Her days a quiet, methodical rhythm dictated by the delicate craft of glass sculpting and the insidious, unpredictable tremors that coursed through her hands. These were not the tremors of fear or anxiety, but of essential tremor, an idiopathic condition that sent uncontrollable shivers through her limbs, particularly when she focused or felt stressed. It was a cruel irony, for Elara had once been a prodigy, graduating top of her class from Viridian's most prestigious art academy, her future in the delicate art of glass seemingly assured. Now, she sculpted only small, simple glass ornaments for an online marketplace, their rudimentary shapes a stark contrast to the complex visions that still danced in her mind. Her evenings mirrored her days, solitary and precise. Dinner was often a humble affair, eaten alone in the dim light of her studio, the scattered tools of her trade glinting softly around her. Unused, intricate glass-blowing instruments lay draped with claws, silent relics of a career that had been tragically cut short. The silence of her space was a constant companion, broken only by the soft clink of glass beads or the whisper of her own breath. One blustery autumn afternoon, as a particularly strong gust rattled the old windows of her attic studio, Elara noticed a small, frantic fluttering outside. A tiny sparrow, its wing bent at an unnatural angle, was caught between the storm-lashed window pane and the crumbling stone ledge. Its desperate chirps were almost inaudible above the wind's howl, but Elara's keen eyes, trained to see the smallest imperfections in glass, spotted its distress. A wave of apprehension washed over her. Her hands, already prone to unpredictable spasms, felt a fresh surge of tremors at the thought of handling the fragile creature. The bird was so small, so vulnerable, and she feared her unsteady touch might cause it more harm than good. Yet, as she watched its pathetic struggles, a deep well of compassion stirred within her. This wasn't just a bird, it was a fellow creature in distress, a small, fragile life mirroring her own delicate existence. Taking a slow, steadying breath, Elara moved with a gentle determination. She opened the window just a crack, ignoring the icy wind that whipped into her studio. With meticulous patience, she extended her trembling fingers, not trying to grasp the bird, but to create a small guiding barrier, nudging it gently from its precarious trap. Each movement was agonizingly slow, precise, a testament to her profound focus. Finally, with a soft flutter, the sparrow slipped free and tumbled weakly onto her windowsill. Elara carefully brought the bird inside, its tiny body shivering in her cupped hands. For the next few days, she nursed it with a tenderness that belied her trembling hands, fashioning a makeshift nest from soft threads and feeding it minuscule drops of water from an eyedropper. She watched over it with an unwavering dedication, her compassion overcoming her physical limitations. When, at last, the sparrow's wing mended and it took flight from her window, soaring into the vast Viridian sky, Elara felt a quiet triumph, a reaffirmation of her ability to care, to nurture, even when her own body betrayed her. This small, unsolicited act of kindness, performed with such perseverance despite her disability, served as Elara's save the cat moment, showcasing her intrinsic empathy and indomitable spirit, instantly drawing the reader's sympathy and support. Hidden in the darkest corner of her studio, shrouded by a heavy canvas sheet, was the ghostly outline of a colossal glass sculpture. It was a project of immense ambition, its unfinished form shimmering with a mystical iridescence even through the dust and fabric, hinting at a raw, unrefined beauty. Whenever Elara passed it, an invisible force seemed to draw her. She would pause, her trembling fingers reaching out, tracing the outline of the hidden form over the canvas. Her eyes, usually so focused on the minute details of her craft, would fill with a mixture of longing and profound sorrow, reflecting a deep-seated pain associated with the piece. Tucked beneath the sculpture's base was a worn, leather-bound sketchpad, its pages filled with incredibly detailed blueprints for a monumental glass artwork. Each drawing, meticulously rendered despite the tremor's onset, depicted a sprawling, ethereal creation she had christened Symphony in Glass. It was the magnum opus she had conceived before her condition had fully manifested, a project that now felt like a cruel, unattainable dream. This concealed masterpiece and its accompanying blueprints hinted at a glorious past, a forgotten ambition, and a talent far grander than her current modest work suggested, stirring a potent sense of curiosity about her unfulfilled potential. Viridian prided itself on being a bastion of art and culture. Its opulent galleries and esteemed auction houses dictated the ebb and flow of the art world, their polished surfaces reflecting a refined, often ruthless competition. In this cutthroat environment, artists who failed to meet the rigid standards of perfection were swiftly relegated to the periphery, their talents overlooked, their flaws magnified. The city's artistic landscape was a gilded cage, beautiful on the outside but unforgiving to those who couldn't fit its narrow definitions of excellence. Alara, with her imperfections, was a living testament to this harsh reality, a forgotten artist in a city that celebrated only the flawless. The Viridian art scene, a glittering facade of gallery openings and hushed auctions, rarely extended its invitation to artists like Alara. Its annual calendar was marked by one event above all others: the prestigious The Obsidian Gallery Glass Sculpture Competition. This wasn't merely a contest, it was a career-defining moment, promising the winner a coveted solo exhibition in the gallery's hallowed halls and a substantial grant that could launch any artist into the stratosphere of critical acclaim. For years, Alara had dismissed it as a distant, unattainable dream, a relic of her pre-tremor ambitions. But then, the official announcement arrived. A glossy brochure slipped under her studio door, its polished images mocking her quiet, tremor-laced reality. The grand prize loomed large, a beacon of hope, yet simultaneously a cruel reminder of her physical limitations. The familiar surge of fear, of inevitable failure, and the public shame of her trembling hands washed over her. She knew, with a bone-deep certainty, that her imperfect art, born from an uncontrollable tremor, would be scorned by the gallery's purest sensibilities. It felt safer, easier, to simply ignore it, to retreat further into the quiet solitude of her attic studio. One blustery afternoon, as Alara was meticulously arranging a small collection of her simple glass ornaments on her online shop, she heard a gentle tap on her door. It was Mr. Silas, her elderly downstairs neighbor, a retired glass artisan himself with a lifetime of stories etched into his kind, wrinkled face. He carried a small, intricately blown glass bird, a gift for her. "Alara, my dear," he said, his voice raspy with age, "I remember your mother's work. Anna, she had a touch, a way with glass, unlike anyone else. They called her the Whisperer of Glass, you know, because her pieces always seemed to hum with a life of their own." He paused, gazing at the shrouded sculpture in her studio. "I see her touch in your simple pieces too, child. A quiet brilliance. I saw the announcement for the Obsidian Gallery competition. You should consider it, Alara. Your talent, it's unique. It deserves to be seen." Mr. Silas, unaware of the full extent of Alara's essential tremor, had unknowingly struck a deep chord. His words, a gentle echo of her mother's legacy, stirred a nascent spark of hope within her. He had seen the quiet brilliance, not the tremor. Could it be possible? Could her unique approach, born from adversity, truly be a strength? But even as this fragile hope flickered, a harsher reality pressed down. Alara was already living month to month, her meager earnings from the online shop barely covering her rent and supplies. And then there was the secret burden, a small, inconspicuous envelope that had arrived days earlier, slipped discreetly beneath her mail slot. Inside was a doctor's note, cold and clinical, detailing a rare, undiagnosed condition that, unrelated to her essential tremor, required a costly, urgent surgery within weeks. She had kept it hidden, even from Mr. Silas, burdened by the immense financial strain and the silent terror of her failing health. This wasn't just about art anymore. It was about survival. The competition, despite its daunting challenges, suddenly transformed from a distant dream to an unavoidable necessity, a desperate gamble for her very existence. The universe, it seemed, conspired to push Alara further. Days later, Tucked amidst her usual bills, she found a stark, white envelope. It was from her landlord, announcing an abrupt rent increase, effective immediately. The new amount was astronomical, far beyond her means. The implicit threat was clear: pay up or lose her studio, her home, her last refuge. This was not merely an inconvenience, it was a direct assault on her livelihood, threatening to dismantle the very foundation of her precarious existence. As if that wasn't enough, she then unearthed an old, yellowed letter, tucked away in a forgotten compartment of her mother's antique work desk. The cursive script, though faded, was unmistakably Anna's, her mother's gentle wisdom echoing from the past. "My dearest Alara," it read, "remember always that true beauty is found not in perfection, but in the echoes of the soul. Sometimes, my child, miracles are made from broken pieces. Trust your hands, even when they tremble, for they carry the spirit of creation." Her mother, too, had worked with glass, and she had always seen the unique beauty in imperfection. The words resonated deeply, a powerful message from beyond the grave, intertwined with the desperate urgency of her current situation. These converging pressures, the exorbitant rent, the dire need for surgery, and her mother's prophetic words, became Alara's undeniable point of no return. The fear of failure still gnawed at her, a cold knot in her stomach, but it was now overshadowed by a burning, desperate resolve. She couldn't afford to back down. She wouldn't. This wasn't just about winning a competition. It was about honoring her mother's legacy, embracing her own unique path, and fighting for her very survival. Alara walked slowly towards the massive, shrouded sculpture in her studio, the one she had begun before the tremor had claimed her fine control. She pulled back the canvas, revealing its rough, unpolished surface, a testament to her unfinished dreams. She ran her trembling fingers over the cool glass, feeling the familiar, unwelcome shiver. But this time, something shifted within her. Her mother's words resonated. Miracles are made from broken pieces. What if she stopped fighting the tremor? What if, instead of trying to perfect every line, every curve, she embraced the tremor itself? What if the imperfection was the very essence of the miracle? A radical, almost audacious idea began to form in her mind. Instead of meticulous precision, she would use shattered, fragmented glass, carefully arranging and fusing it to create patterns. Her trembling hands, rather than a hindrance, could become a tool, creating unique organic cracks and fissures, lending a raw, vibrating depth to the work. It would be a monumental challenge, a complete reimagining of her craft, but it was the only path forward. This was the biggest gamble of her life, a daring leap of faith into the unknown, where her disability would become her distinctive artistic signature. Alara picked up a small hammer, eyeing a discarded sheet of vibrant blue glass. The first deliberate crack echoed through the quiet studio, a sharp, decisive sound that marked the beginning of her fight. The new approach to her art consumed Alara. Her small attic studio transformed into a crucible of experimentation. Instead of fighting her tremor, she began to embrace it, allowing its erratic dance to guide her hands as she fractured sheets of glass. The metallic click of breaking glass became a new, percussive rhythm in her silent world, replacing the gentle hum of her old, unused tools. She discovered that by carefully controlling the force of impact, and by layering shards of varying thicknesses, she could transform what was once a debilitating flaw into a unique aesthetic. The chaotic beauty of the shattered pieces, when fused together, created intricate patterns and unexpected refractions of light that no smooth, perfectly sculpted piece could ever achieve. Her mother's words, "Miracles are made from broken pieces," resonated with every careful, trembling placement of a new shard. For the Obsidian Gallery competition, Alara decided to submit not the entire Symphony in Glass, which was still too monumental and incomplete, but a meticulously chosen small sample piece. This fragment, shimmering with iridescent blues and deep purples, was a microcosm of her new technique. It featured a captivating blend of carefully arranged shattered glass, creating a texture that was both raw and ethereal. The unique, almost organic crack lines, born from her tremor, were not hidden. They were highlighted, becoming an integral part of its mesmerizing depth. It was unconventional, a radical departure from the pristine, unblemished glass traditionally lauded by the Viridian art elite. The submission day arrived, a crisp autumn morning. Alara, clutching her carefully packaged sample, felt a familiar knot of anxiety twist in her stomach. The grand entrance of the Obsidian Gallery, with its imposing facade and polished brass doors, seemed to loom over her, a silent judge. Inside, the atmosphere was hushed, reverent, filled with other artists whose work, Alara knew, embodied the flawless precision that was expected. She found the designated submission desk, a cold marble slab, and presented her piece. The jury room was a sterile, brightly lit space where dreams were made or shattered. Among the esteemed panel was Julian Vance, a glass artist renowned for his slick, technically perfect sculptures. Julian, with his perfectly coiffed hair and a perpetually smug expression, had been Alara's arch-rival in their academy days. He had always seethed with thinly veiled jealousy over Alara's raw, intuitive talent, which, even then, occasionally surpassed his own meticulous precision. He reveled in her downfall, seeing her tremor as divine retribution for her natural gifts. Julian, due to his connections with Mr. Sterling, the gallery director and Julian's longtime friend, held a significant sway on the judging panel. When Alara's sample piece was placed before the judges, Julian's eyes narrowed. He recognized the distinct, almost vibrant texture, the unique play of light. And then, he saw the subtle, almost imperceptible tremor-induced cracks, a cruel signature he knew all too well. A sneer twisted his lips. "Ah, Alara Thorne," he drawled, picking up the piece with exaggerated care. "Still experimenting with disorder, I see." He held it up to the light, then quickly set it down with a dismissive clink. "While I admire your tenacity, Alara, this is hardly the caliber of work we expect at the Obsidian Gallery. It's a chaotic jumble of fractured pieces. It lacks the control, the precision, the perfection our esteemed institution upholds. A beautiful mess, perhaps, but certainly not a masterpiece worthy of a solo exhibition. Frankly, it looks like an accident." He paused, a cruel glint in his eyes. "A chaos of shattered glass. It simply doesn't meet the standards." He delivered his verdict with a condescending smile, relishing the public humiliation he imagined Alara was enduring. He felt a surge of triumph. Her return, if it could even be called that, would be swiftly quashed. Unbeknownst to Julian, his words and judgment were being relayed. Mr. Elias Thorne, a reclusive but legendary art collector known for his unparalleled eye for overlooked genius, was not physically present at the jury session. He had a reputation for trusting his instincts and a vast network of discreet scouts. His personal representative, Ms. Anya Sharma, a sharp-eyed art consultant, was observing the judging process, meticulously documenting each piece and the jury's reactions. Anya had noted the unique qualities of Alara's sample, its raw emotional depth, and the striking way it played with light. She had relayed her observations, along with Julian's dismissive comments, directly to Mr. Thorne. Elias Thorne, upon hearing the description and Julian's derisive analysis, felt a familiar pull. He had long admired the late Anna Thorne's work, Alara's mother, recognizing in her pieces a profound artistic soul that defied conventional perfection. He was intrigued by the concept of symphony in glass, and found Julian's harsh critique oddly compelling, often finding true genius in what the mainstream rejected. He requested a private, detailed report on Alara's piece, intrigued by the hints of emotional depth and unconventional technique. Julian Vance, however, was not content with merely rejecting Alara's submission. He saw her attempt as a personal challenge, a potential threat to his carefully cultivated image of being Viridian's premier glass artist. With Mr. Sterling's tacit approval, Julian publicly announced the competition results, meticulously praising the flawless winners and deliberately omitting any mention of Alara's submission. He then used his considerable influence within the art community to launch a subtle, yet vicious, smear campaign. "It's a shame, isn't it?" Julian would lament at exclusive gallery parties, sipping champagne. "Some artists, they try to capitalize on unfortunate circumstances. Art should transcend personal struggles, not be defined by them. Her work simply wasn't up to par. It was a technical disaster, a haphazard collection of glass shards. Frankly, she's exploiting her condition for attention. He spread rumors that Alara was merely using the competition as a publicity stunt, hoping to garner sympathy rather than legitimate artistic recognition. He ensured that no art critics or journalists would give Alara's work a second glance, effectively burying her attempt at a comeback. He even subtly influenced major art supply stores to quietly reduce their stock of the specialized glass Alara used, making it harder for her to acquire materials, an almost invisible sabotage. His goal was clear: to ensure Alara Thorne and her chaotic art remained a forgotten whisper in the glittering halls of Viridian's art world. The stage was set for a public humiliation, orchestrated by the very man who feared her dormant talent the most. The Obsidian Gallery, typically an oasis of hushed reverence, buzzed with an almost feverish energy on the night of the Glass Art Competition Gala. It was the pinnacle of Viridian's art season, a dazzling spectacle where the city's elite, renowned critics and ambitious collectors converged. Beneath the soaring ceilings and amidst the glittering displays of technically flawless glass sculptures, champagne flutes clinked, and hushed conversations flowed like an expensive vintage. For the chosen few, it was a moment of triumphant validation. For Alara, it was the symbolic arena of her most profound rejection, the very stage where her dreams had once soared, now serving as the backdrop for her public exclusion. Despite her desperate attempts to secure an invitation, Alara had been unequivocally denied entry. The gallery's meticulous guest list, undoubtedly influenced by Julian Vance and Mr. Sterling, had ensured her absence. She found herself standing in a shadowy alley directly across from the gallery's brightly lit entrance, a solitary figure dwarfed by the imposing elegance of the building. The sounds of laughter and applause drifted out, mingling with the distant rumble of city traffic, each burst of merriment a fresh prick to her wounded spirit. She knew, with a painful certainty, that somewhere within those walls, Julian Vance was basking in the glow of his supposed triumph, perhaps even subtly mocking her chaotic attempts. Mr. Silas, her kind neighbor, had tried to intervene, pulling what few strings he had, but the gallery's doors remained firmly shut against her. Alara was utterly alone, facing the crushing weight of public dismissal and the bitter taste of exclusion. The physical strain of her rare, undiagnosed condition was beginning to take a dire toll, adding a terrifying new layer to her isolation. Her body, already battling the persistent tremors, now suffered from unpredictable bouts of weakness and a pervasive, bone-deep fatigue. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. "The surgery is urgent, Alara. Within weeks, or the damage could become irreversible." But weeks meant money. Money she simply didn't have. The millions Julian Vance was likely garnering from his perfect art seemed an impossible chasm away from her desperate financial reality. Every ache, every tremor, was a stark reminder of the ticking clock, not just on her artistic dreams, but on her very health. To compound her despair, Julian Vance had just announced his latest grand project, a monumental, impeccably polished glass installation for the city's new corporate plaza. The reviews were already pouring in, effusive in their praise for his unrivaled precision and technical mastery. The media, ever eager for a new darling, had crowned him the undisputed king of Viridian glass art. His triumph, so complete and unblemished, threatened to utterly eclipse any potential for Alara's work to ever gain recognition. It felt as though she was not only facing an insurmountable artistic rejection, but a race against time, with her health and career hanging precariously in the balance. A profound sense of despair settled over Alara, cold and heavy as a shroud. She had poured her soul into symphony in glass, transforming her deepest vulnerability into a unique form of expression. She had dared to believe that beauty could emerge from brokenness, that her tremor, rather than a curse, could be a conduit for a new kind of art. But the art world, it seemed, valued only flawless perfection. Her sacrifice, her relentless effort, her very defiance of her physical limitations, all of it felt utterly meaningless. Her hands, usually so alive with creative energy, now trembled with an unbearable intensity, reflecting the turmoil within her soul. The tremor, once a challenge to be overcome, now felt like an insuperable barrier, mocking her aspirations. She leaned against the cold brick wall of the alley, pulling her worn coat tighter against the encroaching chill, her gaze fixed on the glowing windows of the gallery. Inside, she imagined Julian, smug and triumphant, surrounded by admirers. She thought of her unfinished sculpture, still shrouded in her studio, a testament to a vision perhaps too audacious for this world. Was this truly the end? Was she destined to remain in the shadows, her art unheard, her talent dismissed, her health failing? The weight of it all, the combined forces of artistic rejection, financial ruin, and physical decline, threatened to crush her spirit entirely. The dream of symphony in glass, once so vibrant, seemed to fade, its colors muted by the overwhelming darkness of her despair. This was her lowest point, the moment where all hope seemed lost. 0, 0, 05, 0, 0, 04, 0, 0, 03. The digital clock on the wall of the obsidian gallery, usually a silent sentinel, seemed to blare its urgency. Inside the opulent atrium, Mayor Sterling, the gallery director, stood poised, a microphone in hand, about to make the final triumphant announcement of the competition winners. Julian Vance, radiating smug confidence, was already stepping onto the stage, preparing to receive the accolades for his perfect yet soulless glass sculpture, a gleaming testament to his technical prowess. The spotlight, a harsh, unforgiving beam, centered solely on him, ready to anoint him as Viridian's unchallenged master of glass. The whispers of the crowd died down, anticipation thick in the air, each second drawing closer to the public validation of Julian's art and the definitive erasure of Alara's. Just as Mayor Sterling cleared his throat, his voice about to boom through the speakers, an unexpected silhouette surged forward, disrupting the perfectly orchestrated tableau. Alara Vance, her face a mask of desperate resolve, lunged from the dimly lit periphery of the hall. She moved with a surprising burst of speed, her body fueled by a surge of adrenaline that momentarily quieted the tremors. With a powerful, almost desperate sweep, she unfurled the massive, still incomplete canvas that had shrouded Symphony in Glass, revealing its raw, magnificent form. The colossal sculpture, though not fully assembled, was a cascade of iridescent, fragmented glass, its surface shimmering with 1,000 tiny, ethereal light patterns. It struck a nearby pedestal, sending a ripple of hushed gasps through the stunned crowd as the glass of her piece clinked musically. A collective gasp, a wave of stunned silence swept through the assembled elite. The initial reaction was not of admiration, but confusion, quickly followed by annoyance at the disruption. A few security guards, their faces contorted with alarm, immediately began to rush towards Alara, their hands already reaching for her, ready to seize her. But then, as Symphony in Glass settled precariously on its hastily unveiled base, its intricate details, magnified by the exhibition's powerful spotlights, became chillingly apparent. It wasn't just abstract art, it was a living, breathing map of shattered light and hidden truth. On its surface, vibrant hues pulsed with an unsettling clarity. Sections depicting jagged, abstract forms that hinted at a broken city skyline, where glittering shards mimicked expensive corporate logos, now subtly skewed and distorted. Hidden within the chaotic beauty were minute, almost imperceptible strands of interwoven binary code, shimmering faintly as they caught the light. These were not random patterns. They represented specific, illicit financial transactions, invisible to the naked eye, but now, somehow, suggested by the glass's unique refraction. Distorted, almost monstrous figures, formed from hundreds of tiny fused fragments, seemed to writhe beneath the surface, clutching abstract shapes that mimicked stolen gold. This wasn't merely art, it was evidence, a meticulously crafted silent indictment presented in a language only Alara could truly translate. Julian Vance, frozen on the stage, his hand still extended for his award, stared at Symphony in Glass. His triumphant smirk vanished, replaced by a ghastly pallor that made his meticulously coiffed hair seem suddenly ridiculous. His eyes, usually gleaming with arrogance, dilated with a raw, visceral terror. He recognized the abstract symbols, the almost imperceptible codes, the precise arrangements of certain shards. And then, his gaze locked onto a particularly chilling detail. a small, intricately woven silver leaf, identical to the silver leaf hair clip Ilara held clutched in her hand, intricately fused into the deepest, most shadowed part of the tapestry-like sculpture. It was a motif, a secret signature used only by Ilara's mother, Anna, in her earliest private works, a symbol of family and hidden knowledge. The horrifying realization hit Julian like a physical blow. Ilara was Anna's daughter. And she knew about his past manipulations of her mother, about the secret contracts he had forged years ago, contracts that had mysteriously vanished along with Anna. You mad woman! You found nothing! Julian shrieked, his voice cracking with desperation, a desperate, animalistic cry escaping his lips. His composure shattered. It's just some ridiculous broken glass, a lunatic's ramblings. Get her out of here, now! He waved his hand frantically at security, but they seemed momentarily paralyzed by the sheer audacity of Ilara's display and the sudden, chilling shift in Julian's demeanor. Julian even physically lunged at the sculpture, attempting to pull it down, his perfectly tailored suit momentarily forgotten in his frantic, exposed rage. This was the Nintho, bated breath moment. The security guards were closing in. Julian was screaming, his face contorted into a mask of pure panic, and the crowd was in a stunned, disbelieving silence. It seemed as though Ilara's heroic act would be dismissed as the rantings of a lunatic, her truth drowned out by Julian's desperate lies and Mayor Sterling's frantic attempts to regain control. The red numbers flashed. Or 0, or 1, or 0. The final announcement was seconds from being made, the irreversible stamp on Julian's fraudulent victory. Just as the first security guard reached for Ilara, his hand extending to grab her, the silver leaf hair clip she clutched in her hand began to glow. It wasn't a trick of the gallery's spotlight. It was an undeniable, ethereal luminescence, radiating outwards. The light pulsed, then streamed across the surface of Symphony in Glass, illuminating its hidden threads and patterns with astonishing clarity. The binary codes Ilara had subtly embedded shimmered, seemingly shifting to reveal actual numbers, intricate sequences of fraudulent transactions. The distorted corporate logos, previously abstract, now sharpened into recognizable symbols of shell companies and offshore accounts Julian had used. The entire map of truth on the sculpture seemed to come alive, its message undeniable, searing itself into the collective consciousness of the onlookers. And then, as Julian continued to shriek his denials, a new voice, piercing and clear, sliced through the pandemonium. Wait! The hair clip? It was Mr. Elias Thorne, who had moved closer, his face a mask of shock and dawning horror. He had recognized the silver leaf, a distinct family heirloom, a unique design commissioned by Anna Thorne decades ago. He knew Ilara's mother had been a brilliant artist, but also a quiet investigator into the city's burgeoning corruption, particularly Julian's early dealings. His eyes widened as he stared at Ilara, then at the terrified Julian Vance. The hair clip, and the patterns on the sculpture. Julian, Anna. She used to weave glass like this. She disappeared after trying to expose your earliest manipulations. You silenced her. Mr. Elias Thorne, a man of deep moral conviction, despite his reclusive nature, suddenly understood the horrifying depth of Julian's treachery. The evidence woven into the sculpture, amplified by the mystical glow of the hair clip, combined with the sudden, undeniable recognition of the family heirloom, solidified everything. He hadn't known Ilara was Anna's daughter until this very moment, but the revelation was a shocking, irrefutable link. Julian, utterly exposed, his eyes bulging with frantic desperation, could no longer maintain his facade. His voice, now a pathetic, hoarse whimper, ripped through the silence, not as a denial, but as a horrified, involuntary confession. You can't be Anna's child. No. That clip was buried. You weren't supposed to find it. You weren't supposed to know about the forged documents, about her. His words, gasped out in sheer panic, were not only an admission of his corruption, but a chilling, inadvertent revelation of his direct involvement in Anna's disappearance and the decades-long cover-up. Mayor Sterling, his face ashen, tried to interrupt, but it was too late. Daniel, the sharp-eyed journalist who had finally managed to sneak past the distracted security, had captured every single damning word on his recording device, his face pale with shock, but his eyes alight with a fierce journalistic triumph. The crowd's reaction was a swift, overwhelming wave. From initial confusion, their faces shifted to disbelief, then horror, as Julian's panicked confession echoed through the atrium, magnified by the gallery's sound system. A collective gasp, then a rising tide of angry murmurs swelled into an indignant roar. "He's a fraud!" someone screamed, the words igniting a new level of fury. "He stole from us! He silenced an artist!" People surged forward, not in a chaotic mob, but with a unified sense of betrayal and righteous anger, clamoring for answers. Julian Vance, completely unmasked, was no longer the charismatic artist. He was a cornered animal, trembling, trapped. He tried to push through the enraged crowd, but hands reached out, grabbing, holding him. The gallery security, now fully comprehending the gravity of the situation and the undeniable evidence unfolding before their eyes, no longer moved to apprehend Ilara. Instead, they moved to secure Julian and Mayor Sterling, recognizing the volatile shift in public sentiment and the undeniable truth of the moment. Ilara stood amidst the chaos, utterly exhausted but strangely exhilarated. The silver hair clip in her hand, still softly glowing, felt warm, almost alive. She looked at Symphony in Glass, its story fully revealed, its broken pieces shining with undeniable truth. Then she looked at the bewildered, angry faces of the Viridian citizens. They weren't just seeing a disabled artist. They were seeing a truth-teller, a symbol of defiance against overwhelming power. Her quiet, desperate act had not only saved her dreams, but had also ripped open the festering wound of corruption at the heart of Viridian's art world, exposing a monstrous secret that had haunted her family for years. The master storyteller had orchestrated a climax that was not only a triumph of truth, but a profound personal vindication, revealing the chilling depths of the villain's depravity and the hidden strength of an unassuming hero. The grand atrium of the Obsidian Gallery, still faintly echoing with the clamor of the preceding chaos, slowly settled into a stunned, disbelieving silence. The immediate aftermath of Julian Vance's panicked confession was a whirlwind of motion. Police officers, who had been among the stunned onlookers, swiftly moved to apprehend Julian Vance and Mayor Sterling. Julian's desperate struggles were futile. The weight of his crimes, now publicly exposed, seemed to crush him, rendering him a pathetic, broken figure. Julian Vance, Mr. Sterling. Detective Harding, a stern-faced officer who had arrived on the scene quickly, stated, his voice resonating with a cold authority. "You are both under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to defraud, and obstruction of justice in connection with the glass art competition and various other illicit financial dealings within the Viridian art community. Anything you say can and will be used against you." The sharp click of the handcuffs was final. Julian, stripped bare of his arrogance and charm, was led away, his expensive suit now disheveled, his eyes wide with a terror that superseded his earlier smugness. Sterling, too, looked utterly defeated, his face ashen. Their downfall was absolute, a chilling testament to the unforgiving nature of truth. The subsequent investigation, fueled by Ilara's intricate Symphony in Glass, Daniel's comprehensive recordings, and Mr. Elias Thorne's powerful testimony, quickly unearthed a vast network of corruption, confirming the extent of Julian and Sterling's depravity. Their trials were swift and merciless, ending with lengthy prison sentences, a fate entirely commensurate with the depth of their crimes. Amidst the lingering shock, Mr. Elias Thorne stepped forward. He walked directly to Ilara, who still stood by the unveiled sculpture, the silver-leaf hairclip clutched in her hand. Its ethereal glow now faded, leaving only a soft, intrinsic shimmer. Mr. Thorne, usually a man of quiet observation, now appeared profoundly moved, a flicker of raw emotion crossing his usually composed features. "Ilara," he began, his voice surprisingly gentle yet firm, I owe you a profound apology. For years I dismissed the whispers, the rumors of corruption that swirled around Julian and Sterling. I valued the superficial perfection, the polished facade, and allowed myself to be blinded by the glitter. I failed to see the true art, the true integrity that lay beneath the surface. I failed your mother, and I almost failed you." He gestured vaguely towards the sculpture. "What you have revealed tonight, it's not just art. It's a testament, a symphony of truth." His apology was heartfelt, raw with shame and true remorse, a poignant recognition of his past misjudgment and the moral blind spot that had allowed corruption to flourish. Alara looked at him, her expression softening. She saw not the dismissive art elite, but a man genuinely grappling with a profound realization. "It takes courage to admit a mistake, Mr. Thorne," Alara said, her voice quiet but firm. "The truth is often difficult to see, especially when it's cloaked in power and illusion." Mr. Thorne nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Then let me try to make amends. Alara, what you have done for Viridian is immeasurable. You've not only saved the integrity of our art world, but exposed a cancer that was poisoning our city's soul. The Obsidian Gallery, under new management, will be radically reformed. But we need more than just new management. We need a new vision, a true one, built on transparency and genuine artistic merit. We need your unique insight, Alara. I want to purchase Symphony and Glass for millions of dollars, a sum that will more than cover your medical needs and ensure your financial security for life." He paused, then continued, his voice laced with profound respect. "But this is more than just a purchase. I want to offer you a lifetime contract, a dedicated state-of-the-art studio, and full funding for your artistic research and future projects. I want you to become the resident artist and a guiding voice for a new initiative at the Obsidian Gallery, the Spectrum Initiative. It will be dedicated to nurturing unconventional talent, embracing diverse artistic expressions, and ensuring that no artist, regardless of their physical limitations, is ever overlooked again. You will help us redefine what perfection truly means in art." This was not just a job offer. It was an offer of artistic freedom, financial liberation, a platform to shape the future of art, and a significant recognition of her unique ability to discern truth and beauty where others saw only flaws. Alara considered the offer. Her life had been one of quiet struggle, her battles fought on the loom of her glass projects. But the past few weeks had shown her the profound impact one individual could have when armed with truth and courage, when embracing their unique flaws as strengths. Her mother's legacy, the truth-weaving gift, was meant for more than just personal expression. It was a tool for justice, a voice for the voiceless. She looked at the now reverent faces of the Viridian citizens, their eyes filled with gratitude and newfound respect, their initial judgment replaced by awe. "I accept, Mr. Thorne," Alara finally said, a faint, genuine smile gracing her lips. "Not for any personal gain, but for the art, for the truth, and for my mother." She paused, then added, "But my first request is that we establish a permanent, public exhibition space within the Obsidian Gallery, dedicated solely to exhibiting the works of artists who create beauty from unconventional means, and a scholarship program for aspiring artists with disabilities, and that the entire Viridian Art Council undergo a complete internal review, every acquisition, every grant, every decision, to ensure no hidden lies remain." Mr. Thorne, visibly relieved and deeply moved, immediately agreed, his resolve to reform the city's art scene unwavering. The news of the scandal and Alara's extraordinary unveiling spread like wildfire, not just through Viridian, but across the nation and even internationally. Alara Vance, the disabled artist, became the weaver of light, a quiet legend. Journalists from major networks flocked to Viridian, eager to hear her story. Alara, with Daniel by her side, the journalist whose tenacity finally paid off, leading to a prestigious award and a promotion to senior investigative reporter at the Arcadia Independent, granted a series of carefully chosen interviews. She spoke not of vengeance, but of the importance of vigilance, transparency, and the profound power of art to expose hidden truths. She spoke of the forgotten wisdom of listening to the subtle energies of places, of the stories embedded in objects, and how such intuition, when combined with evidence and courage, could dismantle even the most formidable lies. Later that week, as the dust began to settle, Alara and Daniel sat together in her now spacious new studio, bathed in the soft afternoon light that streamed through its enormous skylights. The vibrant flowers from her old attic garden, carefully transplanted by Mr. Silas and her grateful neighbors, bloomed in exquisite glass planters. You know, Daniel mused, putting down his notebook, a genuine look of wonder on his face. I still can't quite wrap my head around it. The way that sculpture, it just came to life. And the hair clip. What was it, Alara? What did you do? His journalistic curiosity, always keen, was now tinged with a profound awe. Alara smiled, her fingers absently tracing the delicate silver leaf hair clip, which she now wore clipped to her collar, openly, proudly. Its subtle gleam was a constant reminder of her lineage and her triumph. This is the lumen clip, Daniel, she explained softly, her voice filled with a quiet reverence. It was my mother's, and her mother's before her. It's an heirloom of the Vance family, passed down through generations of light weavers, as she called us. We don't just sculpt with glass, we sculpt with intuition, with a connection to the resonant energies of objects and places. The clip, it amplifies that connection. It helps me read the imprints left on old documents, on places where significant events occurred. The patterns, the codes on symphony and glass. They weren't just imagination. They were truths I perceived, translated into art, amplified by the clip, and unveiled by the specific resonance I felt within the gallery's old electrical circuits. A subtle, forgotten architecture my mother helped design, knowing its potential. A shadow of old pain crossed her face, quickly replaced by a quiet resolve. My mother, Anna, she had this gift too. She recognized Julian's corruption early on, before he was powerful. She tried to expose him, using her subtle artistic insights to gather information. But she was alone. He silenced her, fabricated evidence to discredit her, and made her disappear from the art world, painting her as a madwoman before she could finish her work. He believed he had erased her and her truth forever. He never found this clip. He thought he had destroyed everything. But the truth, it just awaits the right light to bind it whole. Alara's voice was steady, devoid of bitterness, filled instead with the calm strength of someone who had faced their deepest fears and emerged triumphant. I realize now why she disappeared. She was trying to warn everyone. I completed her work, Daniel. I finished the symphony she started, not with thread, but with light, with glass, and with justice. Daniel looked at her, his respect deepening into something akin to reverence. You didn't just expose a corrupt art dealer, Alara. You brought justice to your family, you redeemed your mother's legacy, and you gave Viridian back its soul. Alara nodded, gazing at the beautiful play of light through her glass. My mother believed that the truth, like light itself, can be fractured, scattered, but it will always find its way through the cracks. Sometimes, it just needs a little help to shine. The city had indeed found a new calm, a profound sense of peace, built not on false promises, but on transparency, integrity, and the quiet, unwavering power of truth, meticulously woven into the very fabric of its rebirth. The city of Viridian hummed with a different kind of energy. The relentless, cutthroat competition that once defined its art scene had softened, replaced by a more inclusive, vibrant spirit. The once stifling air of elitism had given way to a burgeoning sense of community, a second spring for creativity and authentic expression. The soaring glass towers still gleamed, but now a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the city's aesthetic had taken hold. A quiet appreciation for the unique, the textured, the beautifully imperfect. At the heart of this transformation, yet humbly unassuming as ever, was Alara Vance. Her essential tremor, while still present, was no longer a hidden burden or a source of shame. It was simply a part of her, a distinctive element in the masterful dance of her hands. After the successful surgery for her rare condition, a surgery fully funded by Mr. Elias Thorne, Alara's physical health had stabilized, allowing her to pour boundless energy into her craft. Her vast, light-filled studio, provided by the reformed Obsidian Gallery, buzzed with activity. Her work, characterized by its luminous complexity and the stunning way it manipulated fractured glass, was now sought after by collectors worldwide, displayed in prestigious galleries from New York to Tokyo. She had become a global icon, a testament to resilience and the profound beauty that could emerge from perceived imperfections. Alara had fully embraced her role as the driving force behind the Spectrum Initiative at the Obsidian Gallery. She personally curated new exhibitions, ensuring that the works of underrepresented artists, particularly those with disabilities, found their rightful place in the spotlight. Her keen eye for genuine talent, unclouded by conventional prejudices, unearthed hidden gems that consistently captivated critics and the public alike. She didn't just exhibit art, she championed artists, creating a supportive ecosystem where creativity could flourish regardless of physical limitations or unconventional methods. The principle of paying it forward became a tangible reality through Alara's unwavering dedication. Beyond her curatorial duties, she established the Shattered Light Foundation, a nonprofit organization that had grown into a formidable force for change. Housed in a beautifully renovated old warehouse near the Viridian waterfront, the foundation offered comprehensive support to aspiring artists with disabilities. It provided generous grants, covering everything from studio rent to specialized equipment. Critically, it offered tailored mentorship programs, connecting burgeoning talents with established artists who understood their unique challenges. Alara herself often led workshops, her hands still prone to a slight tremor, demonstrating how to transform unexpected flaws into breathtaking aesthetic features. She spoke not just of technique, but of resilience, of finding strength in vulnerability, and of the transformative power of embracing one's authentic self. Her story, often shared with heartfelt sincerity, became a beacon of hope, inspiring countless individuals to pursue their artistic dreams despite formidable obstacles. The memory of Julian Vance and Mayor Sterling's dramatic downfall and the subsequent uncovering of their widespread corruption served as a potent, unspoken lesson etched into the collective consciousness of Viridian. The city, once seduced by superficial charm and illicit gains, now valued authenticity, transparency, and ethical leadership. Mr. Elias Thorne, now a respected elder statesman of the arts, had committed his vast resources and influence to ensuring that the Viridian art world remained truly meritocratic. He often publicly lauded Alara, famously stating at a gala, "Alara Vance taught us that true art doesn't hide its imperfections. It reveals them, and in doing so, reveals profound truths about ourselves." His words, echoing a newfound wisdom, underscored the city's commitment to integrity. The very physical heart of Viridian had found its own symbolic reflection of Alara's journey. In the city's central public square, once a sterile expanse, now stood a magnificent, monumental glass sculpture. It was Alara's now completed Symphony in Glass, a towering masterpiece that soared towards the sky, its millions of fragmented pieces fused into a breathtaking whole. It pulsed with iridescent light, catching the sun's rays and refracting them into a dazzling spectrum of colors across the square. Each intricate crack, each imperfection born from her tremor, was not a flaw, but a deliberate design choice, a shimmering vein of light that added depth and character. A discreet plaque at its base, installed by a grateful city, simply read, "Symphony in Glass, a testament to truth, resilience, and the beauty found within." It was a living, breathing monument to a quiet artist who had shattered conventions and rebuilt a world, piece by beautiful piece. On a sun-drenched Saturday morning, a gentle melody of laughter and light chatter drifted across the square. Alara Vance sat on a polished marble bench near Symphony in Glass, her cherished lumen clip now clipped to the collar of her elegant tunic, its silver leaf gleaming softly in the sunlight. A sleek black cat, a descendant of the timid alley cat that had once adopted her, now plump and healthy, dozed contentedly on her lap, a soft purr vibrating through Alara's body. She was patiently guiding a young girl, whose hands trembled noticeably, through the initial steps of glass fusing, her voice calm and encouraging. Alara looked out at the bustling square, at the children playing, their faces alight with wonder as they gazed at Symphony in Glass. She glanced down at the gleaming clip on her chest, then at the contented cat, and finally her gaze settled on the young girl, whose hesitant hands were slowly, carefully, piecing together a mosaic of colored glass. A profound, serene smile spread across Alara's face, a genuine expression of peace and fulfillment. She was no longer just a disabled artist or a survivor. She was a mentor, a visionary, a living legend. Viridian had indeed found its second spring, a period of not just renewal, but a flourishing life built on truth, integrity, and the quiet, unwavering power of unseen heroes. Her legacy, and the unique beauty she brought forth from every shattered piece, would now flow as freely and abundantly as the light itself, illuminating and nourishing generations to come. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming narratives that delve into the profound human spirit and the power of unseen heroes. Thank you for joining us on this journey.